Hello everybody, I hope you are all keeping fine. Today again we'll be talking about vocabulary, but we've been talking about vocabulary for quite some time now. We have discussed, vocabulary problems, learning problems, retrieval problems. We have already alluded to. Today, my sole emphasis will be on the use of antonyms and synonyms. Antonyms, synonyms, and matters of style that make the use of words different in different situations. I'm sure sometimes the question does come to your mind, why is it that he's been talking about words and vocabulary for such a long time? And let me assure you, I haven't spoken enough as yet. But maybe today's lecture is going to be the last one, because I'm fully conscious of the fact that human nature is likely to feel monotonous, monotonous, because we've been talking about vocabulary, acquisition of words, retention of words, retrieval of words. Retrieval. You try to keep them here, remember them, and then call them to your use if and when you need them. This is why such a big fuss about words. Words, somebody has said, colors fade, temples crumble, empires fall, but wise words endure. Colors fade, temples crumble, empires fall, but wise words endure. It means we are in fact, struggling to enable ourselves to use words wisely, because wise words endure. Again, words are one of our chief means of adjustment to all the situations of life. Maybe you remember we've been talking about the fact that in today's world, we talked about it, 2-3 lectures ago. Words, the surest means to success, particularly in today's modern world, where words seem to pay off. So words, chiefest means of adjusting to the situations of life. And the better control we have over words, the more successful our situation, our adjustment is likely to be. The better your control over words, the more your adjustment, the better your adjustment is likely to be in different varied situations of life, adjusting yourself according to the situation. That could be one of the means to success, adjusting, not remaining a stranger in a situation. And then, why shouldn't we quarrel about words? The big question that comes to your mind is, why shouldn't we quarrel about a word? What is the good of words if they are not important enough to quarrel about? It means we have got to be cautious, we have got to be alert regarding the use of words. And we need to remind ourselves here that we choose one word more than another if it is different. Why would we if it isn't different? And this will directly lend us into a discussion of synonyms and antonyms. You all know, when somebody begins to learn a language, where does he start? He starts with vocabulary, isn't it? You start with vocabulary. You start learning words. Words. Throughout your lives, you keep learning words. That's why words are fairly important. But when we discuss, the problem of acquiring, retaining, retrieving words, one question that comes to everybody's mind, or it should come to everybody's mind, is what does it mean to know a word? What does it mean to know a word? It's an extremely thought-provoking, exhaustive discussion. What a word is. Perhaps much too elaborate to be covered in a single lecture. What is a word? Because every dictionary gives you hundreds of thousands of definitions of different words. And without proper understanding of this question, what a word is, people won't be able to develop effective strategies for learning and teaching vocabulary. After all, what is it that we are concerned most about? Acquiring new words, learning new words, how to learn new words, how to retain new words, so that we can recall them if and when they are needed. Let me, in this connection, I would like to remind you, and McCarthy, a great, ELT expert and linguist, he says that words are the smallest units of meaning that can stand on their own. Words, please listen to me attentively. Words are the smallest units of meaning that can stand on their own, that have the potential to move freely standing, and he calls them morphemes. It means that the smallest unit of meaning could also be called a morpheme. But are all meaningful units freestanding? They can move on their own? No. If you have the word kind, and by the way, let me tell you that a morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning, and if you destroy it, if you change its spellings, you are going to destroy its meaning. For instance, the word kind, if you remove the d or the d at the end of this word, the da sound, you are left with kin. You have another word, but the word kind is not there. It means if you try to tamper with a morpheme, you are likely to destroy it. So kind is one morpheme. It can move about on its own. It also begins to function as a root. And by the way, the major or the fundamental part of a word to which affixes can be attached. And affixes, you all know now, prefixes and suffixes. Together they are called affixes. If you have the word kind, you can also have the word unkind. Kind, unkind. Negative prefix, un. We talked about it earlier on, that in, ill, ir, un, they are all negative prefixes. They cannot occur on their own independently. But are they meaningless? They have meaning in them. It means that a morpheme can occur on its own independently, but it can also occur before or after. If you have the word unkindness, noun forming suffix, ness or nus, both the pronunciations are correct. Unkindness, both ways it's correct. But nus, noun forming suffix. It means that morphemes can also have their grammatical significance because certain letters begin to function as morphemes, Like the word cat. If you have a s added to it, s, it becomes cats. If you have a word mat and you add the word s, it becomes mats. If you have the word bat, you add the word s or letter s or sound s and it has bats. It means, and what is the significance of this s sound? It's not a sound. In grammar or in linguistics, they would call it a grammatical morpheme. It has its grammatical significance because it has given you a plural noun. Similarly, if you add the d or the ed or d letters to certain words, look becomes looked, book becomes booked. Again, ed having a grammatical function. So that would be regarded as a morpheme. The point that I'm trying to make is that a morpheme is, in most cases, a free moving entity, freely moving entity. Unkindness, I cannot stand his unkindness. Unkindness now functioning as one word. You call it one word. But this word, in its own turn, comprises three morphemes. Unkindness. So McCarthy, he says that when you are talking about words, in the first place, we need to decide the problem, what a word is. A word to a layman, and I mean a lay is one who doesn't happen to be a student of linguistics or language or grammar, is a layman. Common. To him, a word is the smallest linguistic unit. But in linguistics, we do talk about morphemes. And if you ask me, I would even go to the extent of saying that morphemes in their turn are made up of phonemes. And what are phonemes? Everybody knows, you know this. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. Phonology being the study of speech sounds and their patterns, the way sounds get arranged in different words, the sort of sounds a language is likely to have. Phonemes give you phonemes give you morphemes. Sounds combine to give us smallest units of meaning. Are you getting my point? Sounds combine to give us smallest units of meaning. It means at some or the other point, phonology and morphology, they begin to rub shoulders. They begin to rub shoulders. So phonology giving us morphology, and morphology in turn giving us words. And words, they could be sometimes roots, sometimes stems. We'll talk about that too. But the fundamental unit, at the moment only this much will do. The fundamental unit, the fundamental part of a word to which affixes can be attached, that is called the root. The root. So McCarthy, an expert, interested in, I was going through his book, English Vocabulary in Use. There are different editions. You could also look up English Vocabulary in Use. He seems to be in favor of being very clear about when we proceed in this realm, talking about teaching vocabulary, learning vocabulary, retaining vocabulary, retrieving vocabulary when and if needed. We need to be very clear about what a word is, and we have come to know now that's units of meaning. Units of meaning? Units of meaning. Units of meaning, do they always happen to be akin to the entities that we are traditionally or customarily familiar with? Man is one word, days is one word, mobile is another word. Pen, another word. And how about air conditioning? Is it one word? It is not a single word, but it is one semantic unit. It has one semantic identity. मानवियत के तबार से उसका जो हजम है, बेशक वो दो लफ्ज़ों पे मुश्तमिल हो, हम उसको मानी की एक इकाई समझेंगे. Air conditioning. How about multi-word units, and most of our phrasal verbs fall in the same category, like break down, take off, bring out, etc., etc. Many phrasal verbs will come to your mind, and then many compound words will come to your mind, like greenhouse, babysitter, toothpaste, wristwatch, and all these words, all the idioms and metaphors. All the idioms and metaphors. They consist not just of one word, but more than one word. Shall we call them words? These are questions that McCarthy wants us to be very clear about. And this leads us into another realm. That is, then another concept becomes necessary, and that concept is the lexeme. L-E-X-E-M-E. Lexeme. Lexeme means the smallest unit of meaning. They are not smallest units word-wise, but they are remembered as, designated as smallest units of meaning. Even compound words, even idioms. If you mean to say that somebody died last night, and you say, he kicked the bucket last night. He kicked the bucket, kicked the bucket. You have got three words. Shall we consider them one word, or shall we consider them one semantic unit? They are one semantic unit, one lexeme. This is the point that McCarthy wants us to be very clear about, that when you are looking up certain entities, lexical entities, in a lexicon, in a dictionary, please be clear about the fact. And this is why I keep telling you that use your dictionary very intelligently. You remember I keep telling you, in some other lecture we'll talk about the use of dictionaries too. Yes. But I keep telling you that use a hard copy dictionary. Of course, you are independent. You can have your own way using your cell phones or mobiles. But if you open up a hard copy dictionary, you can't help glancing at quite a few lexical items. And when you are looking up a word in a dictionary, simply do not go through one definition, one meaning. Look up for possible variations, combinations, and do not neglect to read the usage notes if your dictionary gives you the usage notes too. Usage notes, it's all very important for the components and sequence of these words, idioms. I'm talking about idioms. The components and sequence of these words or these linguistic expressions, they should be considered as one form. They should be considered as one form. But knowing, we've been talking about it, that knowing the form of a word is far from enough, as students who know the formation of words or compound words may sometimes not know the meaning of them in contexts. We have talked about it already. That knowing the forms of words, not enough. Knowing their use in different contexts, more important. Acquainting ourselves with sense relations, the sense relations that words contract. And this is something that will drag us into the discussion of sense relations, discussion of synonyms and antonyms. We'll talk about these two today. Another problem, sometimes particularly, problem that people in translation studies encounter when they are looking for equivalents, they find difficulties. And that is something that we have already covered under our impact of culture on language. You remember we talked about the fact that English has only one word, niece, or another word is nephew. Whereas in Urdu, we have different words for bhanji and batiji. English has only one word for a sister's or a brother's son, nephew. We have Batija and, yes, Bhanja. We have different words. And the same is the case with Chinese and a few other languages. It means that these two are problems that students who are trying to master vocabulary, they face, and they are concepts that need be added to the study of vocabulary. But talking about sense relations, sense, by the way, means meaning, the meaning that comes to your mind. How do two words happen to be related in respect of their sense, in respect of their meaning? And this is something that necessitates having a look at synonyms and antonyms and hyponyms. Synonyms, antonyms, hyponyms. Generally, ordinary people, would say, well, several words share a similar meaning and similar meaning, general meaning. They share their general meaning. They are synonyms. But be careful. Let me warn you. Let me put you on your guard. Their meanings are nearly always different. Synonyms, they sound similar. And this, incidentally, in my opinion, would make the difference between an articulate speaker, a cautious, alert, a good speaker, and one who isn't discreet. There is difference between being discreet and indiscreet. If you aren't discreet, you're likely to misconvey your meaning. You're likely to be misunderstood. You're likely to be misconstrued. You're likely to be misconstrued. You have got to be very clear about the minute differences that exist between words. And that's why I say when you are looking up words in a dictionary, look at the definitions, look at the examples, and look at the usage notes. Then ask yourself, when you have done all this, you have read the definitions, you have read the examples, you have read the usage notes, then ask yourself, is the meaning exactly the same? Is the meaning of these two words exactly the same? I gave you a pair, very simple pair. You are all certainly familiar with injure and wound. How many of you know the difference, by the way, between injure and wound? Both words can mean to damage, shabash. Both words can mean to damage part of a body, human body, to damage someone's body. This is what these words mean, to damage part of somebody's body. But wound is used to suggest that there is a hole or a tear in the skin. Yes. Wound, a hole or a tear in the skin, especially if it is done on purpose. A hole or a tear in the skin, especially if it is done on purpose. With a weapon. With a weapon. Then you would use the word wound. You might, on certain occasions, say, he was badly injured in a car accident. He was badly injured in a car accident. But you also might, in another situation, say, 2 people were killed and 40 wounded when fighting broke out last night at the pub. When fighting broke out, 2 people were killed and 40, yes, wounded. As a result of a fight. It's not an accident. So if somebody is hurting somebody deliberately on purpose, particularly causing a big hole or a tear in somebody's skin, you use the word wound. And otherwise injure. It means we need to be very clear about the difference. You know, kill and murder. Another pair. Kill and murder. To murder means to kill, but always has the additional meaning of unlawfully and on purpose. Murder means to kill somebody unlawfully and on purpose. You might send somebody into the prison to kill your opponent. He would be killing, but he would also be murdering that man or that woman, because he is being sent to perform this deed. It's a deliberate, unlawful deed on the part of that person. So, murdering and killing is different. So many people get killed in the epidemic these days. Yes. They are not being murdered. Yes. Even the executioner, जल्लाद, जिसको हुकूमत वक्त ने ये इख्तियार दे रखा है कि वो किसी बंदे को मौत तक पहुंचा दे, मार दे। मुख्तलिफ मुल्कों में मुख्तलिफ तरीक़ों से ये काम किया जाता है। वो किल कर रहा है, लेकिन आप ये तो नहीं कहोगे कि वो मर्डर कर रहा है। He is not murdering, he is killing. So I am simply trying to say that words demand care in their use. Another very common word comes to my mind, and the word is smell and stink. Smell could be good, smell could be bad, or very, very bad. A stink is always a very bad smell, especially a very strong one. Stink. Yes. Smell could be used in the positive as well as in the negative way. A smell of roses, but also a smell of stale cooking. A stink of burning wood. Smell both ways, but stink when you mean to express your dislike or disapproval. Dislike or disapproval. So vocabulary, this is what McCarthy wants us to be mindful of. Sometimes the words are different in degree. Different in degree. You all know adore, A-D-O-R-E, is a stronger word than love. Adore, A-D-O-R-E. If somebody is madly in love with somebody, you might hear him or her saying, I adore you. Adore. Adore, a stronger word than love. Astonishment, a stronger word than surprise. Very good. A stronger word than surprise. Furious, a stronger word than angry. Very good. Again. Soaked. Soaked, S-O-A-K-E-D, soaked is a stronger word than wet. And terror is a stronger word than fear. So words different degree. This is what to tell us how to learn or teach vocabulary, acquire vocabulary. These are points that they seem to emphasize. Sometimes, and this is something that we have already alluded to, rather discussed in somewhat detail, connotations. Words express different attitudes. Words express different attitudes. You can say someone is slim if you seem to approve of his or her being slim. And if you mean to say, well, he is too slim. By the way, adverb too used when something exceeds desirable limits. Then you would prefer the word skinny. He is skinny. And if you really mean to be rude to somebody, you would say scrawny. S-C-R-A-W-N-Y. So slim and skinny and scrawny, they communicate, express your attitudes. I think you are all grown-up, sensible people. Attitudes matter a great deal in maintaining social amiability. माशरे में प्यार मोहब्बत भाईचारा रखना पैदा करना ज़रूरी है, तो फिर रवैयों का मुस्बत इजहार भी ज़रूरी है। और रवैयों का मुस्बत होना और उनका मुस्बत इजहार हमारे लफ्ज़ों से होना है। तो इसके माने हैं कि हमें लफ्ज़ों के इस्तेमाल में बड़ा केयरफुल होना चाहिए, बिकॉज वर्ड्स आर वेरी लाइकली टू एक्सप्रेस आवर एटीट्यूड्स। So be careful when you are. I remember somebody using the word newfangled. Newfangled. Somebody like me. It took me quite some time to bring myself around to using a soft phone. I am still not very good at it. Not at all. Newfangled. If it's a new invention. New, modern. You go have used the word new. New device, new gadget, modern device, modern gadget. But if I say newfangled, that would be an expression of disapproval on my part. I don't like it. So I would say newfangled instead of saying new or modern. What is it that we are trying to understand? Being careful with the use of words. Words are not used in a similar way in different situations. When you will study linguistics in detail, you will get to know that some of the words, they seem similar as word entities, they seem similar, but linguists, they dispute the fact that they are one word or two. For instance, you remember, we've been talking about the fact that the word buy means to buy something from the market. But if somebody is saying something, and I say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy this lie. I'm not going to buy this lie. Linguists might perhaps start saying that the two buys are different. They get into their etymology. They begin to trace their lineage, the way we talk about lineage in case of human beings. But let's not get into that discussion at this stage. Two words or one word used differently in different situations. We need to acquaint ourselves these things too. And sometimes this, to me, being a student of literature too, is very important. Sometimes words have a different style. A different style. You might call somebody brainy in an informal chat, but perhaps one who is accustomed to being more formal, he would prefer saying intelligent. Intelligent. A student of literature might prefer the word comely, C-O-M-E-L-Y, attractive, having a pleasing appearance, a comely young woman, comely. But it's literary. This is the word that a literatier, person who creates literature, he is more likely to use this word comely in place of beautiful. And then cop, very common, but informal usage instead of a policeman. And then fag in British English, singular, fag for cigarette. Cigarette. And again, let's remind ourselves of that idiom, kick the bucket. It's humorous, though I would be the last man to indulge this sort of dark humor. But people do try to be humorous about somebody's death, and they say, he kicked the bucket last night. जैसे हम उर्दू पंजाबी में कह देते हैं, और कल शाम क्या हो गया? Yes? This is what it actually amounts to. If you are trying to be deliberately funny and making fun of somebody's death, then you would prefer. And then euphemism. You know that sometimes we have the feeling that one word would sound very unpleasant in a certain situation. Why not use another word, a better one, a pleasanter one? Why say die? Why not say pass away? Pass away. Why say die? So matters of style also need be given some consideration. Seek, very ordinary word, is more formal and literary than look for. So words, I have told you, need be treated very carefully. Learned carefully, they need be learned carefully, stored carefully, and used carefully. If you are not careful, you are likely to create an enemy when you had hoped to win a friend. I think I better stop here because I wanted to talk about roots and prefixes, but unluckily, unfortunately, we are late today. And I would like to discuss roots and prefixes, Latin roots, Latin prefixes, Greek roots, Greek prefixes in my next lecture. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. Goodbye.